We specialise in protecting, preserving and growing your wealth. Blacktower Financial Management, the team you want by your side. Visit blacktowerfm.com.
This is Bay Radio then. Welcome to Tuesday. And, as I say, Tuesday, delighted to welcome back Christina Brady from Blacktower Financial Management. Lucky to have you for this hour whenever you can make it in, usually every fortnight.
It is.
And, I said, where should we start? And you decided you want to talk about the coronavirus.
Well, it was between that and Brexit, and I thought, which one's the least deadly? So we went for coronavirus.
Well played, yeah, I guess so. Well, I was seeing this morning, possible, some the papers are using the word outbreak, but one case possible in Torrevieja. They've gone for the tests anyway. And the tests
but you were saying all the tests in the UK have come back negative. So, if you get a bad sniffle or a cold, or if you've got something like that and you say you've been to China, they're automatically going to quarantine you and put you in, and do all the tests.
Well, that's Brits, though, isn't it? As soon as you get a sniffle, that's it. I've definitely got coronavirus. Off to the doctors. All came back. But this is an Icelandic tourist, apparently, who had been in Wuhan itself.
You see, then that is worrying. You have to be very careful. And obviously, it seems really weird, but this does, and it has affected the stock market.
Really?
Yes, it has. We saw a drop yesterday of over 2%. It has come back slightly today. We're now at 7428, which is a tiny rebound. And it's because of the coronavirus, the effect of it, because what it's going to do is it's going to affect travel companies, airlines.
Actually, there already was. There was an almost immediate knock-on effect on tourism.
Yeah. And if you look at, and also one of the countries that are going to suffer the most is going to be Australia, because a huge amount of its tourist industry comes from China. They have over 1 million visitors a year, and they spend absolutely billion. I think it's nearly 20 billion a year in Australia, and they're not coming. And I remember when I went early last year, we went to Sydney, and in all the high-end stores, there was lots of Chinese. They were in Gucci, Chanel, Dior, and they weren't buying just one handbag. They were buying like 10 at a time.
Yeah, they got spending power.
They have really big spending power. So the Australian economy is already faltering, so this could tip that over the edge. So that's one thing to look at. So you've got holiday companies, you've got travel companies, and it's not just going to affect the ones in, Asia. It's going to affect across the world, because obviously the airlines operate across the world. So that's going to affect your investments because the stock markets are going to get a bit touchy about what's happening, and it could affect currencies as well. And it's a weird thing. Usually if you're going to have a flu outbreak or something like this, it's usually October, November. Usually now things are dying off. So we'll have to wait and see. And being in China, you don't really know how bad it is. They're saying officially 100 have died, but it could be 1,000.
Is that according to state media?
Yeah, state media in China has always been economical with the truth. Sorry, China, but you have. And you don't really know. And you don't know if it's just, concentrated in that area or has it spread to another area. And I think the fact that maybe people feel that everything hasn't been disclosed is adding to the fear as well. And as you said, people get a sniffle, that's not so bad. When they start to get a fever and they're breathing short of breath and if it's it may be silly, but if they've been to China or if they've been to Asia, they will worry.
Yeah, well, that's understandable. But, it's nothing wrong with getting tested, I suppose.
It depends. If you've got hundreds and hundreds of people turning up, it's a waste of resources if there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah, the doctors don't care for that too much.
No, but if you have got a real good case, like you said, in Torrevieja, you've been to that area, you're feeling unwell, they will test you. And one of the things they're saying in China is they haven't got the resources, they haven't got the testing kits, they haven't got the quarantine. So it's very difficult to contain something when you haven't got the resources you need to do that. And the gate's been closed too late. I think that's what happens with most things. People knew about it, and especially airlines, especially governments, and they thought, oh no, we're okay. But you know what it's like on a plane. They recycle the air. If someone on that plane's got it, there's a likelihood at least 50% of the people on that plane are going to get it. Because they don't pump in fresh air. They're not going to open the windows on a plane. Well, they might to suck you all out.
As always, though, and there's a big story, however dramatic, there's somebody benefiting from it, and it's the manufacturer of the masks. They're sold out. They keep selling out. They can't get them for love nor money.
I know. Well, the thing is, it depends. Obviously the masks, good idea, but who says it's just passed by that? I know it's meant to be through the air, but it may be by touching. You don't know. If someone's coughed and they've put their hand on a rail, that germ's there. You touch that germ, It doesn't matter if you've got a mask on. When you take the mask off, unless you're going to wash your hands all the time, it's very, very difficult to contain viruses and illnesses. As we know in hospitals, when they get breakout of a MRSA or whatever in a hospital, or something, when they have the upset tummy bugs, it's very difficult to contain it because hygiene is paramount. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Hopefully it will be contained.
I guess take care when you're going through the airport. I'm always, it's like I've got some sort of disorder, like the compulsion now, just opening things with a little finger
when you go
and
to
not
the
touching
toilet,
anything.
No. When you go to the toilet, I always get a bit of toilet paper to open the doors because I'm not being funny, but there's still a huge majority of people that go to the toilet and still don't wash their hands. And also, you've been to the toilet, you're coming out, but you can't wash your hands in the toilet, so you've got a dirty hand anyway to open the door. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, take that little gel with you. But so, when you get on the bus, when you come off the plane, hanging onto the bar there, I put my arm around it like that and try and prop myself. Don't grab it with your hand.
It sounds silly, but things like that you have to do. And if you're on a cruise ship, they've always got the sanitisers everywhere because things do pass quickly between people when you're in a closed environment. So obviously people be careful. It has affected Chinese, obviously tourism. We had the Chinese New Year, and there was hardly any Chinese out celebrating. Even the Great Wall of China, certain parts were closed off. They were trying to contain it because obviously if you get groups of people together, breeding ground. So really, I think we'll see what happens in the next month. Either it's going to take off, or else it's just going to die a death, and that'll be at 100, maybe a couple of hundred dead. But if you think 100 people are panicking, but in Africa you have these outbreaks of Ebola and these sort of diseases, and thousands upon thousands are dying. But it's because you don't have that much tourism in these rural areas in Africa. People don't panic, but it's still, each life should be worth the same, and it seems we're getting more on this because it could affect the West, whereas if you've got places like Africa, it doesn't affect the West, so it doesn't get in the news so much.
Of course, yes. They don't like to think about their horrible situation. I did see some figures out of China just in the last couple of weeks. Slight fall in the sort of economic figures.
It will affect growth.
No, but before all of this, just their economic output, but it was still like 6.1%, which other countries would dream of. But
most
that's a fall for them.
Most of the other ones just want the 0.1%.
Yeah.
But no, it will affect the growth. Obviously, if it does take off and it does become a major thing, it will affect growth in China, which then is going to affect the global growth, which then could lead to countries which are teetering on recession, like Germany, going into recession. So we will have to wait and see. It depends how big this gets. It could have a big knock-on effect on everything, on food supplies, everything.
Christina Brady is back in from Blacktower Financial Management, blacktowerfm.com. We're at the 28th of January. There's a familiar date to you.
It is. It's my daughter's 18th.
18, man.
I don't know if you're listening or in a cab, but happy birthday, Lauren.
I'll sort something out later when they're way back.
When I know
from
she'll actually be listening.
Has been made to go to school today. Well played.
She has been made to go to school.
Quite right, too. 28th of January, ahead of the 31st of January. There's another familiar date. Well, it is now, anyway. Brexit date on Friday. We get the transition period, of course, for most stuff.
We do, till December 2020. It made me laugh in the papers yesterday because you had the Irish Prime Minister, Leo, I can't say his surname.
Leo Varadkar, the teacher.
That's it. He was saying UK is in a weak position post-Brexit, as we're only one country. What this chap forgot to say to people is that the UK economy is equal to the economies of the 18 smallest countries in the EU. So out of the 27, 18 of those, put them together, and that still doesn't equal the UK economy. So it's not just one country, it's one country that's got a lot of power. And I think Boris, he's stuck to his word, he's signed the withdrawal agreement. Obviously it wasn't headline news in the papers because they were all on the side of Remain. But there has been some good news. There was an announcement, I think it was today, or it could have been yesterday, about expat pensions and healthcare.
Yes, the pensions, they will get the rise.
They will get the rise. So they've guaranteed that as long as you live in the EU and you're registered in the EU, so if you're not resident, please get residency, but by December 2020, you will be guaranteed the rises in your UK state pension. However, if you come to anywhere in the EU after 2020 December, you will not. Okay, your pensions will be frozen the same as they are in Australia, Canada and New Zealand. So it's imperative that if you live in the EU anywhere and you're getting a UK state pension, that they know that you live in the EU And so therefore you will be guaranteed your rises, which are very, very valuable. Because if you think, I think at the moment it's about £129 a week. If you're in Australia and New Zealand, yours is still only £67 a week.
Oh boy.
Because it was frozen. So it makes a huge, huge difference. Also, they've looked at healthcare, and they're looking to guarantee healthcare for people as well who've got their S1. So that will just it just takes off some of the stress for the people living here, because they were worrying about whether they'd be able to have healthcare. You know, if you don't get the rises in your state pension, inflation is there, it's ever present. It means you're getting poorer. So all those people that are panicking, doom and gloom, all the Remainers that were saying everything's going to fall apart, the world's going to end. If you look at the UK economy, it's starting to boom. Companies are starting to invest again. There was so much scaremongering and so much untruths thrown around by the Remainers, and Tony Blair should be shot, hung, drawn and quartered for what he's done with the Brexit. He was a complete traitor, but also for what he did before when he was Prime Minister. I think he should just be sent to some island in the middle of nowhere and left there. You know, the UK, they are working hard to make a go of it. They've got people queuing up to do trade agreements. OK, everything's not going to be as easy as before. If you've got a driving licence, for instance, and you're living in Spain or in the EU, you have to convert it to a Spanish driving licence or an international driving licence. And you're meant to have had your applications in by this Friday. Mm-hmm. There may be an extension with the withdrawal agreement, we don't know yet. If not, you may be forced to take a driving test in the country you live in. So Spain is saying if you haven't got your applications in, you may, in theory, have to take a Spanish driving test. You can do it in English, but how many people, when you've been driving for 20, 30 years, want to be having to do the theory and having to do a driving test again because you've picked up bad habits? And in Spain, they drive weirdly anyway, because when they go round a roundabout, it doesn't matter what lane they're in, they'll cut across you and carry on going round anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so there's some weird rules here. So make sure you've got that. If you're applying for residencia, remember you've got to have healthcare. Okay, You've got to be on the padron, and you've got to have proof of income. I know Denia was swamped with people, but some people I've been speaking to have got very quick appointments and managed to get their residencia. It's best to have it. We've all got the little green credit card size at the moment, or some of us still got the big A4. If there is a no deal or a hard Brexit, or even a Brexit, we may have to change those again to one with our pictures on, but we'll find out. And if you haven't got any questions about Brexit, there are some seminars taking place in February, which I've been invited along. They're set up by the Citizens Advice Bureau. So they're completely impartial. They know all the best information. 6th and 7th, they're down south.
They're further south on the Costa Blanca, Casada and Hotel La Zen, yeah.
And then on the following week, I think it's the 10th and 11th, is that the Thursday and Friday?
No, that's the Monday and Tuesday, the next week. No, yeah. So that's in Altea and at the Parador in Javier on the Tuesday, yeah.
And if you're not sure, I know Bay Radio have got the details, or you can always phone the Blacktower office, which is 965 058212 to reserve your place. Please do reserve your place, because I know the one in Casada and the one in La Zenia were nearly full, and so Javier and Altea were filling up very, very quickly. And obviously there's a limited number of seats. Mm-hmm. There can be some people standing, but obviously there's a limit to how many people you can fit in a room. And the Citizens Advice Bureau will go through everything. And obviously we'll have had the 31st will have gone, so we will know most of what you need to do, most of what's going to be happening. It can be and also I'll be there, because depending on what type of agreement we come up with, it could be affecting people's investments. And I'll go into that later. What it will mean is that if there is no financial agreement, so companies, etc., can't passport into Europe, certain funds will no longer be accessible, and people will have to switch funds within their portfolios. We're waiting to see also if certain companies passport rights in from Gibraltar, which I know the majority do. Blacktower do as well. You won't be able to anymore if there's no financial agreement. Blacktower are very lucky in that we can use Cyprus on water as well. So for our clients, there will be no change. So this is where, if you've got your financial advice with a big company that deals across the whole of Europe, that's got representatives across the whole of Europe, the UK, Americas, you will see no difference in whatever happens with Brexit. There'll be a smooth transition. If you're with smaller companies that are maybe one or two people, we're completely independent as they are, but they will find it difficult. We've got the knowledge and expertise to make sure that our clients do not suffer at all with Brexit. If we have to switch funds, we will. Most of the funds in the UK have set up funds in the EU, in either Luxembourg or Ireland, so there won't be be that much of a difference. So you've got to be wary. So if you are unsure of anything, please come along to either of those sessions. As I said, there's 4 of them. There'll be a variety of people there you can talk to and ask questions from, and you will get completely impartial advice. Bay Radio, I know, give the details during the day, and I think it's advertised in quite a lot of the free papers, and it will be on the Blacktower website as well. I'll make sure it was there the other day. I'll just make sure it's easy to find.
Yep, so that is next Thursday and Friday, those start, says
and then
around
Monday
the
and
Costa Blanca
Tuesday
South.
on the north.
So going back to our friend Woodford, what's the latest? This rumbles on then.
Well, hopefully by the end of this week it'll all be done and dusted. By the end of this week, people are meant to learn what return they're going to get on their investment. The administrators are winding it all up. At the moment, it looks like the likely losses are going to be between 30 and 50%.
So this was the fellow that went solo.
This is the one who set his own fund. Thought he was the best fund manager in the world. Invested in illiquid companies. Basically, he invested in startup companies that weren't traded on the stock market. Obviously, when things got tough, he couldn't liquidate the positions. He carried on charging people, even though he suspended the fund. So he raked in millions in fees, which was absolutely criminal. And I'm sorry, if the FCA had any teeth at all, they should have stopped that straight away. That's where they let investors down, and regulators always let investors down. I'm sorry, no matter what people say, they're always on the side of these people who earn multi-millions. Anyway, he's been sacked, he's been tossed aside. Hopefully he'll lose everything and he'll realise what it's like to be a normal individual who trusts someone and then they literally don't care. But it looks like they could lose between 30 and 50% of what they've invested. It could be more, which is very, very sad. And what's happened is some of the platforms in the UK, like Hargreaves Lansdown, St James's Place, they have a buy list, or they have funds they recommend. And Woodford was always at the top. Woodford. So people who are not experienced in the market read that and thought, oh my God, we must get into Woodford. So they're very unhappy with Hargreaves Lansdown. Some of them are deciding whether they're going to take it to court, or they've already reported it to the regulators, because they feel that even though it's not meant to be advice, it is tantamount to advice. If, someone's promoting a fund very heavily, they're the platform provider, you're going to listen to them. If they give you good reviews, there needs to be more disclaimers on things, and I think they have to be more careful, because there was a huge amount of people that put, 100% of their savings into one fund, which, from a financial advisor's point of view, is not on. You just wouldn't. A portfolio, yes, but not a fund. So these people, yes, will know by the end of this week what their losses are.
All right. I bet he doesn't. I don't know where he's based, but I bet he isn't living within Kent County Council's administration.
200 million. That's a lot of money.
Christina Brady in from Blacktower Financial Management. Let's just get around to one or two bits, sort of loose end and tying up, see where we're at. FTSE seems steady. It's gone back up a little bit after a little bit of a drop early on. And the exchange rate, which we're just over 118 for the euro to sterling at the moment. It got a bit excited, I think, on Monday. Went up towards 119.
It did, and it's been affected because in the UK they're not sure if they're going to vote for a rate cut next week or not when they meet at the Bank of England. It seems 50-50. We did seem quite sure that they weren't going to do a rate cut, but now with everything that's been happening in China, they're dithering. So it seems that it's split. 50% want a rate cut, 50% don't. So until that's sorted, we're going to see the exchange rate maybe fall a bit.
I did see the speculation that it was another one of the committee there came on board, didn't it, in favour of rate cuts. So we'll see.
So, and that would just take interest rates down instead of 0.75 to 0.5. Basically, savers have been, they've just, I can't say the word, I'm not allowed to on air. But they have lost out for the last 10 years or so. People who are holding money in their bank accounts are just losing money day after day because they're getting no interest. Inflation's going up. So actually the buying power of your money is falling. And if these people had just taken a little bit of risk, come and seen to a regulated independent financial advisor like ourselves, done an investment, they could have been getting growth on a low risk investment over that whole period of at least 3% a year after fees. So people, I know you need to keep a certain amount in cash as a contingency fund, but you've really got to bite the bullet. You've got to take that step and make an investment, because otherwise you are losing money day after day. And I say this to people, and most people do listen. I've had lots of people in there very, very happy if they're low risk. And, if you're higher risk, obviously you can get double-digit growth, but you could get less than that. You could have false, but please come and see us. And while I'm talking to you, if you live in Spain, remember Modelo 720. What you may ask is that is the asset declaration. In Spain, if you have any assets outside Spain that total more than €50,000 as at the 31st of December 2019, you need to report them on a Modelo 720 by the end of March. And there's 3 categories. The first category is bank accounts, deposit accounts. So if you have 4 bank accounts and each of them's got, say, £12,000 in, you total them up, that comes to more than €50,000. You have to report every single bank account. If you've got joint bank accounts, you can't split it in half and say of the 12 each you had 6. No, the Spanish treat it as you've got 12 each. You both report and then they split it in half once you've reported it. So the first one is your bank account. Second takes in pensions, investments, life policies. So if you've got anything that equals over €50,000 in value, not in payments from your pension, it's the value of the pension pot, and if you can access it, they need to report it. And the third is property abroad. So if you've got any rental property, if you've got anything outside of Spain and you're resident, this only applies to Spanish tax residents or residents in Spain. If you're resident in Spain, you are tax resident. Okay, and once we have Brexit, if you're not resident, you'll only be allowed to stay here 90 days in 180. It's not 180 in 360. So you have to be very, very careful. And the Spanish will clamp down once Brexit's happened. So if you are resident here, tax resident here, remember, look at that and report it on your Modelo 720. The EU, people say, the EU ruled the Modelo 720 was illegal. No, they didn't. They ruled that the fines were disproportionate to the crime. So what they have said is that Spain needs to reduce the fines on not reporting or reporting incorrectly, in line with other fines for taxation for when you don't report correctly, which are hundreds, whereas with the Modelo 720 it's thousands. So people aren't being fined at the moment, or if they are, they're not paying them till this has been sorted out. But please, if you are in those categories, talk to your historian or accountant. Make sure you're fully aware if you need to report or you don't need to report. If you've already reported, you don't need to do it each year. It's not something you need to do each year. Once it's done, it's done. You only have to redo it if you sell an asset completely, or the value of one asset or any asset goes up more than €20,000. So once you've done it, unless that applies, you don't have to worry about it year on year. And if you have investments, which are called Spanish tax compliant, you don't need to report those because they are reported by the provider on your behalf. So if you have a Spanish compliant investment, you don't need to worry. However, if you have a pension like a CUROPS or a SIP or private pensions, personal pensions, not your state pension, you need to report those, and you need to get the values as at the 31st of December 2019. If you have any queries, talk to your historian or accountant, or if you've got a financial advisor, talk to them.
That's the bit where I sit back easy in my chair, because as soon as you say, if you have any assets, and you don't even need to go to the value, I know it doesn't include me anymore.
And if you are confused by that and you have any questions, you can always email me. It's info@Blacktower FM, that stands for financialmanagement.com, or you can do c.b at blacktowerfm.com. You can always call the office in Spain, which is 96505 8212. You can always go to Blacktower website, which is blacktowerfm financialmanagement.com, and if you look under locations, go to Costa Blanca and you'll find my details. If you do send an email, put for the attention of Christina, just put you heard me on Bay Radio. Doesn't matter where you live, in Spain, Canaries, wherever you come from, France, across Europe. I will then look at it. If I can deal with it, I will. If not, I'll pass it on to the best person to deal with it for you, and they will usually come back to you within 24 to 48 hours. And if you can't remember that, just get in touch with studio@bayradio.fm. Yes, remembered after 25 years.
Right off the T of the H there. You mentioned obviously looking for alternatives to leaving your money in the bank there. I mean, for one or two people, it may seem a little bit sort of complicated and foreboding, but it doesn't have to be.
It's very, very simple.
You
honestly.
Do all the work.
Yes, we do all the work, and every product we sell you gives you everything in simple, plain English. We don't use jargon. That's one thing I'm very proud of saying at Blacktower. My team, it's not just me, there's 6 of us. We are all here and we will all explain it to you so you understand it. And only when you understand it will you move forward. You ask as many questions as you want. The more questions you ask, the better I feel, because it means you've been listening.
Quite. Well, yes, let's talk about not using jargon. I've crossed nothing off my bingo checklist
Oh,
this
do you want
week.
me to say a few words now? Hedge funds, arbitrage.
Flexible drawdown.
Yeah, flexible drawdown.
It's the one.
PCLS.
Listening and exceeding expectations for over 31 years. Blacktower Financial Management, the team you want by your side. Visit blacktowerfm.com.